Good morning, everybody. CJ is not here, obviously, this morning, but he will be here for the regular meeting. Lana?
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, August 15th. We have appeals for waivers of the noise ordinance at Herndon Sage Park on September 1st from 5:30 to 8:30, September 2nd, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., September 3rd, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. At the Tricentennial Park on September 24th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., 3404 Moffett Road on October 6th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Mr. Penn, have you got any problems with any of these since
No,
they've been in your district? Okay.
No issues.
Okay.
564 Dolphin Street on August 26th from 6 p.m. till 12 a.m. Mardi Gras Park, September 22nd through 24th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. The 150 block of St. Francis Street, December 31st and January 1st from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. At Arlington Park on October 21st from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And 4201 Michael Boulevard from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m.
Any issues with any of these? Except for the one for C. Archer Small, I think that one might be a problem in District 3. Okay. All right.
Okay, public hearings to rezone property located at the north side of Government Street, east of South Ann Street from B1 and B2 to B2.
Okay. Anything?
Well, I mean, you guys know that because of the meeting, we laid this over for another 30 days because of it. They've been waiting long enough. Even when we get to the ordinance resolution stage of the agenda, I'd like to ask if we just move it into consent. I mean, we've been through this, they've been through this for now probably 9 months or so. So let's just go ahead and get it over with today.
Do y'all want to move that into consent? Do you agree to go ahead and do that?
Can you suspend the rules? That's easier.
Suspend the rules and, yeah,
Because
sure.
there's no consent ordinance.
Well, okay. Yeah, we'll just suspend the rules if everybody's okay with that and move it. Go ahead and vote for it today. Okay.
Okay, public hearing to rezone property located at 258 North Hamilton Street and 263 North Franklin Street from T4 and T5.1 to T4.
Mr. Carroll, any?
Today, there's some miscommunications and misunderstandings in the layout of survey in the T4 and T5 with the owner of the property, who is Kim Knowles. They've asked that a section on Hamilton Street remain T5.1, and then on Franklin Street, it'd be T4. That is not the way that it appears in the ordinance. So in order to get this right, we're going to have to go through the same process that we did with the Corps of Engineers building and probably send this back out for re-advertising with the correct zoning applied to it and the correct layout. I've talked to Margaret already. I've talked to the two lawyers involved with it from Ms. Knowles. And when we get to that point today, I might ask if we submit suspended rules on that one too, so that we can table this one and then have the correct version written and resubmit it to us after it's been re-advertised correctly for 30 days.
So if we suspend the rules, what are we going to do? You want to table that?
Yeah, we'll table
Okay.
this one.
All right.
Then we'll ask, we'll call for a re-advertising for 30 days with the corrected version. All of that information will have to get gotten to Margaret Pappas in planning, and it all put together correctly and sent out for re-advertising.
All right.
I expect Zeke to be here today too at 10:30. I haven't seen him this morning yet. He didn't answer this morning. That's what Rose said.
All right. And Michael, you've got all that, right? You've got all that?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Public hearing to rezone property located at the southwest corner of Monday Street and St. Madar Street, extending to the northwest corner of Hercules and Monday Streets from R2 to R3.
And one more in District 2.
I may recuse myself from this one. I was asked to write the performer for this project for Ms. Hill. I don't know. I hadn't even asked Linda yet if I could even hear the public hearing on this. I have not agreed to the contract as of yet. That had may come before council. This is something I'll take up with him between now and then.
All right.
Okay, public hearings to fix costs for demolition of structures at 1253 Glennon Avenue, 310 Hosfeld Lane, 1413 Chickapin Street, 122 Michael Donald Avenue, 962 Bernice Hudson Drive, 1212 Seneca Street, and 111 South Cody Road.
Any, any questions, problems with any of these? Okay.
Public hearing to assent to the vacation of a portion of an alley adjacent to 2411 Wilson Avenue. You okay? Public hearing to assent to the vacation of a portion of a US Highway 90 West Service Road, as well as to consider a vacation of right-of-way fee as a condition of the vacation for a portion of the Highway 90 West Service Road.
Ben, anything?
I have no trouble with the vacation of the right of way. I just wonder why we're doing the right of way vacation and waiving the fee associated with it.
The fee's not waived.
It's the next item.
Yeah, but that's just where we consider the amount. We have to set the amount.
Yeah, this is,
To consider a vacation of right-of-way fee
As a condition.
as a condition.
As a condition.
okay, so this, it's only like $7,000 or something like that. This is not waiving that fee. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Reggie Hill will continue his remarks from last week and discuss the fiscal year 24 budget and response time for citizen inquiries. Dr. Raul Richardson will provide information about the Arts and Culture Community Development Project. Consent resolutions held over. 03865, appoint Taylor Atchison to the Board of Adjustment.
Where are we with that? Linda?
Michael sent some information around on Board of Adjustment, so
There's been no new information since I sent the memo around.
Did I ever read it? Is that it?
why don't you go over it, Michael, and just refresh everybody?
This might take me a couple minutes if we want to move on and come back.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
CIP resolutions held over. 08853, approved purchase order to Trantex Transportation Products of Texas for traffic calming devices for traffic engineering. Resolutions held over. 08854, approved purchase order to PPM Consultants to prepare ADEM preliminary report on municipal garage. 09855, allocate unassigned funds in the Capital Improvement Fund to capital projects for various capital projects. 21856, authorize contract with Relum Contracting for clubhouse restroom improvements at Azalea City Golf Course. 21857, authorize contract with H&H Electric Company for exterior lighting at the Gulf Coast Explorium, Telecommunications Building, and the History Museum of Mobile. 21858, authorized contract with Gorham Air Conditioning Company for cooling tower replacement at the Mobile Civic Center. 37859, consider the application of Ophir Transit for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate a non-emergency medical transportation service. 60860, authorized settlement agreement and release of claims. Ordinances being introduced. 64036, rezone property located at the north side of Government Street, east of South Ann Street from B1 and B2 to B2.
I'll ask that we take this up today.
Pardon me?
This is the one I'll ask that we take up today.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
Take up-
call to waive the rules to vote.
Right, and that's 64036 and 64037.
Yeah, we'll waive the rules on both of those. Yeah.
64037, rezone property located at 258 North Hamilton and 263 North Franklin Streets from T4 and T5.1 to T4. 64038, rezone property located at the southwest corner of Monday and St. Madar Streets, extending to the northwest corner of Hercules and Monday Streets from R2 to R3. Consent resolutions being introduced. 03866, appoint Gray Redditt Jr. to the Mobile Museum of Art Board. 03865, appoint Josh Woods to the Planning Commission.
Yay.
I don't know if I should say congratulations or condolences, Josh. But thank you for agreeing to do that.
I'm looking forward to it.
03867, appoint members to the Mobile Historic Development Commission.
Madam Vice President,
Mr. Reynolds?
of these appointments, are there any appointments that live outside of current historical districts?
Mhm.
I think Shayla's coming up.
Yeah.
Good morning to the council. Kimberly Knowles, I believe was appointed by or recommended by the Alliance, lives outside of the historic districts. And Jessica Fairley, who is the director of the Africatown Heritage House, lives outside of the historic districts.
They're both at large, right?
Yeah.
They are both at large
Yeah.
recommendations.
Dan, you have any other questions?
Yeah, I've had some interest from folks in the greater Japonica area to serve on the MHDC, and I think there's some pretty strong desire for them to begin establishing a historic district in that area. So I'd love to see somebody from that area appointed to this board so that they can, understand and begin that process of becoming a historic district in an area that's outside of downtown Mobile or Midtown. I'm not sure where Kimberly Knowles or Jessica Fairley live or if they're in this particular area. So, if y'all entertain the possibility and, allow me to have a conversation with the mayor and maybe there's a possibility for somebody to come from that area to be appointed to this board.
Anybody?
Well, if you remember right, we capped the numbers. You were in all the discussion that
Sure.
we had.
Yeah.
But there was one major point that we made in those meetings is that we didn't want the ARB and the MHDC to have any type of correlation. There's one member within these recommendations that's now would be both in the MHDC and the ARB. If we wanted to truly sever the problems of the past, then we could remove that one member, and that one member could be only a member of the ARB and replace that member with a recommendation. Now, the recommendation that you make would still fall under the process of only being a recommendation, just like the neighborhoods would, which then would have to go through the approval of the mayor. So, I mean, I don't mind that simply because I had the conversation with Bruce this morning about having both a member on the MHDC and the ARB because I didn't ever want to see the same problems that we had in the past with the MHDC supposedly working for the ARB. So I wanted to clear defining lane there. So I don't have a problem with it. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay, so I mean, it's just a conversation that of course has to be had with the mayor's office. I don't have any necessarily objection to any of these folks, but I would like to see this particular area have some representation as they move towards this, establishing a historic district. So I think in order to accommodate that, maybe we hold this one week instead of getting it through consent this week.
Everybody good with that? All right, we'll just lay it over for 1 week and you can have your discussion this week.
A suggestion maybe that we could, go ahead and vote vote for those that you approve. If it focuses on the ones on both boards, you could approve everybody else.
It's only one that's on both boards.
That's right.
Is there something that the MHDC needs to do right away that these people need to move immediately?
They've been, non-functioning since July the 14th, and they need to really get up and running. And one of the desires of this whole effort has been to get the MHDC back focused on what it's really supposed to be focused on. And if we can go ahead and get the other 12, then we've got more than a quorum. We can at least get the organizational stuff out of the way. And just a point of information, that one overlap is Steve McNair, who only has a 1-year term.
On the ARB?
Yeah, and that was intentional. There's a transition going on here, and we would like to have a lot of that prior knowledge. Steve's area of expertise is historic.
Steve's not currently on the current ARB, is he?
Yes,
He is?
yes,
How many terms?
1 year.
No.
Has he
I
already
mean,
served?
Was he on the previous ARB?
No.
He was not there.
No.
And let's talk a little bit more, Bruce. I think Ben can find a way to make this somehow work out.
Okay, well, it'd be great if you go ahead and move on the others, please.
Well, if we were going to move on the other ones, we would need the specific names that we were voting on today.
We have.
And it might have to be an amendment.
Well, I don't necessarily have who do you pull off? That would be, so right. So I just,
Yeah, that would be the question. Who are you
yeah,
going
right.
to pull off?
Who would be exchanged, and if the mayor's willing to, there's a lot of discussion. So as much as I'd like to say that would be something that is possible, I think it would be premature to try to approve some, and then, I think it's better if maybe we hold it a week and we just have a discussion.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a lot of excitement amongst the members that have been chosen to be on the MHDC. I've received, I think, 4 or 5 emails and a couple of telephone calls from people saying they're excited and ready to go. I think most of the people on the MHDC and the ARB I know and have been proponents of the community for a long time. So anyone that comes off would look at that not very nicely, so we need to find a clean way to do this. And like I said, Bruce, I think that's being that Steve is on both, it may be an opportunity there for Steve to do one or the other. In my mind, and this is just me talking, Steve is one of our strongest or stronger ARB MHDC members, which 1-year term to me would be an automatic reappointment if he was my appointee. See, so I think he would be better served on the ARB than the MHDC. That's just me saying that, but he doesn't have to be on the board of directors of the MHDC to be totally involved in the membership. See, so I mean, it's just a twofold issue, and it's an opportunity question that we can all talk about.
I think we can meet between the 2 meetings, between now and council meeting, and resolve this.
Okay.
Honestly, that's a good issue. Sure it is.
Yeah, it's-
We'll address it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
03907, appoint Broderick McPherson to the Mobile City County Youth Council. 37868, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a retail beer table wine on off-premises license to Taziki's Mediterranean Cafe on Duru Drive. 40869 through 875 are fixing costs for demolition of the structures. 58876 and 877 are declaring weeds noxious, Group 1645, and assessing cost for removal of weeds, Weedling Group 1641. 6878, 79, and 880 are approving awards of special bonuses to the Officer of the Month, Firefighters of the Month, and Public Services Employee of the Month. 6881, concur in the acceptance of the mission, vision, and value statements for the city's Public Works Department.
Madam Vice President,
Mr. Reynolds?
this one, we haven't seen one like this before. Can somebody kind of tell me, what the idea is with this declaration? Maybe
Part of
the lab?
accreditation process that Public Works is pursuing.
is that, the city council accept their vision and their mission.
So it's just
The formality.
yeah, the APWA invites it to be adopted, meaning you all know what it is, and you understand it, we have a mission, vision, and values, that's all.
Okay. Thank you.
60, 882 through 885 are determining appropriations to Franklin Street Baptist Church of Mobile, Alabama, W.H. Linecoff Elementary School, United Methodist Intercity Mission of Mobile, and Sandtown Community Action Group serve a public purpose and approve payment. CIP resolutions being introduced, 21886, authorized contract with Micor doing business as MDS Construction for playground demolition at Fry and Mill Street Parks, $35,177 combined. 21887, authorized contract with Bagby and Russell Electric Company for traffic signal upgrades at Hillcrest and Cottage Hill Roads, $458,146. Resolutions being introduced. 01888, authorized agreement with Alabama Department of Transportation for U.S. Highway 45 streetscape improvements, $375,000. 01889, 890, 891, and 892 are authorizing agreements with Brendan Charles, Sebastian Torres, Hans Laub, and Elaine Campbell to provide tennis lessons and clinics for Parks and Recreation Department.
Madam Vice President,
Yes, sir.
these are 4 tennis pros or people doing lessons and clinics. I know we've approved maybe 3 other ones or so earlier in the year. We're not paying these folks any amount of money, correct? So the city of Mobile sells the service of a tennis lesson, and then once we collect, we then pay these people. Is that how it works?
That's how it works. It's actually a split. 85% goes to the instructor. 85% goes to the. There you go.
85% goes to the instructor and the remaining goes to the city.
And I would ask is, so demand out there for tennis lessons is extremely high right now.
Correct.
Okay, that's fantastic news. Thank you.
And this is heat.
Well, maybe not in this heat, but yeah.
They show up.
Yeah.
We take lessons in the dark.
Well, that's why they have lights. So yeah. Okay.
08893 through 898 are approving purchase orders for fuel for various city departments, to Dennis Aluminum Products for decorative aluminum signposts for traffic engineering, $19,150. Interface Services for carpeting for office spaces on the 5th floor of Government Plaza, $84,240.42. To Jubilee Decor for holiday decorations for Parks and Recreation Department, $24,260. To Kronos Incorporated for annual renewal of Telestaff workforce management software for Mobile Fire and Rescue Department, $24,242.36. And to Vertiv Corporation for annual renewal of maintenance services for MIT Data Center Cooling System, $15,588. 21899, authorized consultant contract with Barter and Associates for construction administration for cathodic protection system for bulkheads at Gulf Quest and the cruise terminal, $64,000. 21900, authorized contract with Allied Corrosion Industries for installation of cathodic protection system for bulkheads at Gulf Quest and the cruise terminal, $1,697,046. 21.
Madam Vice
Mr.
President.
Reynolds?
It's not clear to me what the scope of work is for the cathodic protection system. This seems to be going beyond just cathodic protection. I don't know, just my understanding or reading of what cathodic protection is, that's like an installation of a cathode to stop corrosion.
That's right, correct.
And we're going to put $1.7 million worth of cathodes on a cracked bulkhead that's got deteriorating
So the deteriorated-
surface.
Well, the deteriorated section, so this is to preclude any continued or even, deterioration that could happen. The main deteriorated section is actually north of the Cooper side part, not down where the cruise terminal is.
So
That's the piece we're gonna be replacing. It's being designed now, construction contract soon to do the replacement of that. But the part down there is still in good enough shape. We can do the cathodic convection and prevent probably an $80+ million repair by doing this, which will extend the life of it.
And so this is just installation of these cathodes onto the bulkhead. It seems like a lot of money for that. I mean, I'm not in that business, but it seems like a whole lot of money to screw a few cathodes along the bulkhead. What is this, zinc or something? I mean, what kind of, is it?
I can get you the details on the specifics. If you want to see the engineering piece on that, we can get you the details on it.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to understand where the 1.7 million's going, you know?
Was this bid or proposal?
Sorry.
It was
this
bid.
Bid or proposal?
It was bid.
How many respondents?
I have it.
So we don't know if it's absorbed or not. How many qualified bidders in the region?
Obviously not that many.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert here. I'm just trying to understand it, you know, of what's involved with this. And it wasn't in the bid documents, the full scope of work where I could, you know, see, okay, you know, one cathode cost $100,000 or whatever. I just
We'll get
couldn't.
you the full engineering package on it and let you see it.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay.
21901, authorized contract with Volker and Associates for professional program management services for the Civic Center.
Madam
Any
Vice President.
questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Joe.
I have some questions for Colonel DeLapp, and I've given him a heads up that I have questions for Colonel DeLapp. And these questions are not intended to be beaten up on him. I want to kind of go back through it so I can make sure I understand it. So on May 16th, we approved a resolution that included a total of $4 million on the Civic Center project. $1 million was what's before us today. And there's another $3 million that's labeled Civic Center, Arena, and Theater. And this is for the initial design,
That's the
right?
design.
And you anticipate, that's the first 25%. You
Mhm.
anticipate that the complete design is going to be about $16 million.
The design will be just short of 12, so 25% of the 12 is 3, and then the project management will be around 4, which the 25% is 1, which is what you're voting on
Okay,
today.
so this first million is for project management.
Correct.
And that represents 25% of the expected total project management expense.
Which would be about 4.
And then the 3 million is for the initial 25% of an expected total 12 million on design.
Correct.
Okay. And thus far, the council has only approved, not the contracts for, but the setting
Funding.
aside of the money for, the 1 million and the 3 million that we just talked about.
Correct.
Now, before you come back to the council for another 4 million or another 12 million, is it your intention to be able to present to the council a pro forma of what the construction costs, the complete construction costs are going to be, where the money is going to come from that, and more importantly, what the operating income and expenses will look like after it's all completed?
Yes, and that's kind of 3 parts. So number one, the reason we only did the 25% was to do just what you described. So we'll come back at the 25% with an updated overall cost estimate for the entire project. So that's kind of the go, no go on the whole project. So we only wanted to expend the minimum amount we could to get to that point, update the cost estimate, which is about a year old at this point, the one we did, although we projected it out in the future years. So we have a good idea, and I've briefed you all on that once before. So that'll be updated, and then we'll know what the cost should be at that point. Much more accurate. We'll have a better design, 25%. We'll have better updated fees for materials and services. Secondly, I've given you all an idea of how we intend to fund the overall project. I've given you the kind of buckets in which we intend to do that. However, that's a moving target as well. We anticipate we'll have additional revenue sources that will help, that probably will be bigger than we initially planned. And so that would help offset that cost a little bit from the city, the having to outlay any of its money and or bond or borrow the money. And then third, the pro forma, we're in the process of renegotiating a management contract for the three main facilities, really for the Civic Center itself is the main one, as well as the theater, the convention center, and the Sanger Theater. Currently, the incumbent is ASM Global, who's had that contract with the city for many years. And we have another vendor. There's really two big ones in the country, them and their competitor. And they're in the process of putting together their proposals, which will include a very detailed pro forma. The only way they're doing this is to do a very detailed pro forma. We've given them months to come up with that so they can understand what their costs will be and how much they can contribute to this project. We expect to have that by the end of September. And then it'll come before council for an updated contract. And at that point, you'll have you'll have fidelity in terms of that, what that's going to look like in the future. Likely that'll be at a 10 to 20 year contract with that management company. So it's a big part of this overall project is redoing the management and where the funds are going to come from and where they'll continue to flow in the future.
Okay, thank you.
William?
Yeah.
That's a big grab, I guess. You keep saying project manager. Why do we need, what project is he managing right now? Are you meaning program? He's managing the program.
When you say he,
you're saying that we're hiring a project manager. I mean,
no, we were talking about the management contract for the facilities. That's who's booking and events and all that stuff. That's the one we're talking about in September.
right,
So
there's no project manager being hired at this point.
No, that's what this contract's for. This is for project management for the Civic Center project.
Is that to design from through design? So we're more saying a program manager, not a project manager. Okay.
Program, because it also includes the construction management and of this parking deck, which is out for bid right now. So it's the construction management of the parking deck, overall program management of the site, and specific project management of the renovation of the theater.
So the program manager will hire the project manager.
Correct.
So this should be program manager. Okay. Secondly, I think to date, I asked Linda and a couple others to gather all the numbers of expenditures that we have out there with the garage and everything else. To date, we're right at about $34 million in expenditures and not just $5 million. So, I mean, that's what they've actually come to this council for to date for that site total. If it may be plus or minus that now with this additional add of $954,000. The next question is I see that you guys said there was no minority participation. I think that the last council passed resolution that states that professional services from the city had to have a portion of it to be participated by minority contractors or professional services, and they're not showing up. So I don't want to let all this money go and we don't have minority participation. I talked to a representative from Vulcan this morning and asked was it there, and it's not. He said they're getting telephone calls, but it wasn't in the proposal that was sent out for requests for services. And I think that our proposal should have that included. So I may ask my colleagues to deny this contract and make sure that we get the required proposal or the required participation from minority vendors into this contract before we let it go. We've been letting we're at $35 million now. We need to check that box. And by law, this council, not this council, but the previous council passed that. So I'm going to ask y'all at 10:30 or whenever this comes up to vote to deny this until we can check those boxes.
So just to put some clarity to that. There's been 3 main contracts that we've let so far to date. Professional services are some of them for the design. The design that's underway required a 15%, and they have a 15% DBE participation. That equates to about 1.8 million in DBE participation just for the design. On the construction, with the current estimated cost of 185 million, that will have a requirement for 15% DBE. Both of those contracts have subs in which the contractor or professional service can bring in subs that have DBE. That one will anticipate about 28 million in DBE. So combined, just between the design and construction on the arena and theater alone, there's about 30 million in DBE participation already programmed, and in the design, it's already underway. So let me just.
Does this contract have DBE participation
So
in it?
on this contract, which is a professional service that's self-performed by the entity, there are no subs underneath that. So there was not from the city a requirement to have DBE because there's no ability to bring that into this contract.
I'm pretty sure they are under this type of stuff, either scheduling, either cost setting up front or projections. They can be anywhere from concept, SD, DD to CD with changeover. It all depends on how the head consultant chooses to use it. So there is a way to do it. It just wasn't placed in the proposal. And if it had been a proposal, they would have found a way to check the box. So it was incumbent upon us to write the proposal in a way and such that the box was checked to include them. And we didn't do that.
Again, we put that requirement in the design services, and there will be in the $30 million contract for the construction
I don't care about that. I'm talking about this one that we're on right now. It doesn't have it. And according to what this council did before I got back here, it should have been a part of it.
Well, again, we've made sure the DV is a major part of this overall product to the tune of at least $30 million.
I see. Mr. Roberts coming. Do you want to add to this, Jamie?
Yeah, DV. Arsenic's out training this week, so.
Okay.
Generally, on a project this size, a lot of the contracts that are smaller contracts get aggregated together. It's looked at as an overall 15%. I think that's what you're trying to. As far as the participation level, it's 15% or best effort. So as long as the contractor showed a best effort, Arsenics gives them sign off on it. In general, most of the time they will have 15%, but if there's not a sub option available, then they're not going to make them hire somebody.
Jamie, you're in my world now. There are people here that can do it. There are 9 companies in this city that can provide this service.
Okay, y'all, let one person at a time.
There are 9 people in this city that have the capabilities of doing it. I don't even know if they even knew that the proposal was written or even out there, that can perform these services to help to be a part of city contracts that would have loved to have known that the opportunity was here. So all I'm saying is that it wasn't in the proposal as it needed to be. It wasn't a box that needed to be checked. And if it was a box that needed to be checked, I'm pretty sure the consultant, Volker, whoever they are, would have done it because they are excellent proposal writers. Believe me, they are. I see them do it all over the country, and they make sure that that proposal, that little box where it says minority participation, they make sure that those 2 pages that they're allowed in the proposal, that it's there, and it wasn't there.
Right, and I'll have to get with Arsenic to get the actual file. Generally, what happens on those proposals, there's at least a 1-page form, DB participation, and we review that.
Rule number 1, never ask the question unless you already have the answer.
Madam Vice President,
Yes, sir. Mr. Reynolds.
based on what I've heard so far is that this particular contract is a sort of one company contract. So Volkert is going to be doing this work, performing this work in-house. They're not hiring contractors to perform a portion of it or, whatever. They're performing it in-house, which it's my understanding Volkert's a fairly diverse organization where there is going to be minority participation, but it's just under the roof of Volkert and Associates.
I appreciate that statement, but that's a misnomer about minority participation. You're going to have minority participation by wage everywhere. But minority participation means that minorities, women, disabled vets are owners of a contract where there's a margin of profit and not a wage. And that is not the way you count minority participation. We used to do that till we found out that it was not. So the opportunity for subcontract there is there. Believe me, it's done every day, everywhere. It just wasn't a box that was required to be checked in a proposal that was sent out to the public.
So I would just, say to that, instead of forcing an organization to hire a contractor when they can do it in-house, I don't think that's a great idea. But then also, as the Colonel said, minority participation where those opportunities are there are going to exceed $30 million when you take the full scope of the project. And instead of trying to put, say, a square peg in a round hole just to check a box when there's going to be minority participation within Volkert's organization, maybe there's a better opportunity somewhere else to fulfill, that 15% requirement. I think that's what they're saying.
I understand what you think they're trying to say, but for someone who understands how these proposals are put together, the opportunity is there.
All right, let's hear from
Okay.
Mr. Delap, and then we're going to go to Councilman Penn.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, under contract today, the designer, GMC and Populous, has 15%. They have 4 DBE / WE firms, one at 7%, one at 3.5%, one at 2.5%, 7, 3, 3, and 2. So that's under contract today for the tune of about, in total, will be about 1.8 million just in the design of DBE. That's 15% there. And in the construction, again, 15% of 185 million is about 28 million. So you're right at about 30 million just in those 2 elements of the project.
I ask you not to cast a shadow with all the other projects. We're talking about a specific project now.
Yeah, but it's-
So let's not cast the shadow of what the other projects are doing. We're talking about this individual project.
Okay, we understand this particular one. All right, Councilman Penn?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I agree with Councilman Carroll. We can't just look at the total of the project. We got to look at every opportunity. I hear $30 million a lot, but how much how much the whole project is going to cost? We got to give every person an opportunity. And if this was a mishap, okay, but we need to give everyone an opportunity to be able to check that box, because you just never know. And if we have the companies that are able to do it here in the city of Mobile, this is a great opportunity for them. And we don't have these opportunities that come on a regular basis. So we should provide those opportunities for those minorities.
Okay, this is first read today, so I see Volkert representatives in the back. I think they've heard some of the concerns here, so we may want to take a look at that before next week. All right, anybody else? Jimmy?
I wanted y'all to kind of keep in mind that what we're trying to propose here is this is a person, not just a firm, that's going to be embedded with the city to oversee the program and project of the Civic Center. So there are no subs attached to this. And so I'm a little bit baffled by the argument being made about DBE participation when we're talking about a person right now.
I don't think that was described in the information that we had, that it was a person. It sounded like a company, more
It's a
people.
professional service agreement with the firm who
a
has brought
person.
in a person to be embedded with the city full-time to oversee this project and this program. So the DBE participation is a little bit confusing to us, but this is a program project manager.
A person to come work with the city to oversee
They'll
the
be embedded
project.
full-time with the city to oversee this program.
Oh, well, the program ends at the point in time that it goes to bid and award services, and then it becomes a project manager. If you're going to pay a program manager $1 million to assist in assimilation of a project where Volkert already has all of these people in-house, that doesn't seem realistic to me. Do me a favor. bring me the proposal again. Let me read it and let me talk to some friends over at Volker who I'd love to talk to, and let me see how their proposal was written and how they filled it out, if that's possible.
Okay, will do. But again,
And let me see the request for proposal 2, and I want to know how many pages they had. I want to know the whole thing so I can see what they were done.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Anybody else? Okay.
31902, adopt the allocation provided by ADECA for the CDBG-DR Planning Award. 40903.
Hey, real quick.
William?
Yeah, the ADECA is this what you and I've been talking about?
This is the first bit of it. This is just the planning fund.
Uh-huh.
It's a separate $1 million from the 52 and a half. It's coming later.
I haven't been able to find the regs on this anywhere. Have they?
There's not really, even in our RFP that they reviewed and approved to get the consultant in for planning, they only reference their own internal regulations. They're not letting us reference HUD regulations.
So how are we moving forward without knowing what the regs are?
Generally, it's CDBG eligible projects with the limitation of we can't copy what ADECA is doing on their single-family rehab reconstruction program. And then you can do new construction as an allowable exception. CBG, you can't usually do new construction.
Yeah, that's right. So you're saying $1 million of the 50?
It's separate. It's a separate $1 million just for planning out. So ADECA, when HUD gave them the $500 million, they had to do a needs analysis and a plan for that. That's where they identified the city as the largest.
I didn't read all of this in Novus. Is that all in Novus? Was that all on the
resolution itself has most of this information in it. Yeah.
I'll look through it again. It's fresh.
Which piece?
I got to figure out what's happening with the regs. This is separate from the 53 million.
Yeah, so they're giving us $1 million to basically be a third party justifier of their own needs analysis, and whatever we come up with attaches to their needs analysis, and then that project plans out our project.
So this is master planning money?
For the most part. We can't select projects to this funding, but we can select project types.
And master plan major areas?
Sort of. They're letting us do some architectural design for neighborhood types, because I told them we need that because we're going to be rebuilding in historic areas. But beyond that, project locations, project types would be very general.
I understand.
And it's mainly because they're not giving us any administrative funding at all. So anything we do has to be tied to a project.
And it's multifamily?
Multifamily is eligible.
This has been off conversation record, but business first floor, multifamily second and third?
Theoretically, but we got to sell them on the economic development side, which is incredibly hard to do with HUD funding.
Let's talk later.
All right. Go ahead.
40903, authorize the purchase of 4231 Shipyard Road with Go Mesa grant funds, $775,000. 47904, assent to the vacation of a portion of an alley adjacent to 2411 Wilson Avenue. 47905 and 906 are assenting to the vacation of a portion of a U.S. Highway 90 West Service Road and considering a vacation of right-of-way fee as a condition of that vacation. Announcements.
Michael?
Council Vice President Gregory, you wanted me to address the BOA issues earlier on in the meeting?
Yes. Forgot all about that as we went through the agenda.
This just came up in the last week, and I sent everybody a memo about it, but there's a couple issues we might want to look at on the BOA ordinance, which was passed in January. The first one is fairly simple. It says that there are 7 members on the BOA, and it just says that they are to be appointed by the city council. It doesn't specifically say that each council member gets an appointment. So the way it's written, theoretically, there could be dueling nominations or anything. Somebody brings up a resolution and it's voted on. We might want to clarify that each seat gets an appointment on that. And then the other one, which is more directly related to what we've got today, is that both by state law and by our BOA ordinance, there are 2 supernumerary members on the BOA. It does not provide at all how the council is supposed to appoint them. So again, right now, as Councilman Reynolds has done, I would say the only way to do it is somebody puts it on the agenda and then there's 5 votes for it or there isn't. And so if the council wants to address maybe rotating those supernumerary appointments through it or whatever the will of the council is, that might be something you want to look at.
Yeah, as far as today, this appointment is for supernumerary, is that correct? And we have, what'd you say, 2? 2 supernumerary. But the rest of the appointments, I guess, as we have been doing in the past, which each council member has an appointee, but we do need to put that into the ordinance to make it official so that there is no guesswork on that one. But the supernumeraries, Michael gave us a suggestion, can rotate, however y'all want to do this.
I think it needs to be written in some type of format before we do anything else. I went back and read the State Enabling Act on the Board of Adjustments. The State of Enabling Act only calls for 5 members. We currently have 7. So was there something that allowed for us to have 7 as opposed to 5?
Yes, but Councilman Carroll, I looked at this since we last talked about that, and there has been an amendment about 10 years back to the Zogby Act that specifically allows where basically for Class 2 municipalities, meaning Mobile, if there are 7 council members, then there'll be 7 appointments to the board, and that's specifically for the Board of Adjustment. So we're absolutely good with the Board of Adjustment having 7 members. In fact, we're required to by law.
Okay.
So do we need to address amending this to, I'm just asking as far as the supernumeraries okay, we don't need to as far as the districts, but the supernumeraries, we need to add an amendment to that so that we know exactly how we're going to do this, or are we just going to do a gentleman's agreement here and everybody just agree this is how we're going to do it?
It's up to the council how the council wants to do it. If the council wants it set in law, then we need to clarify that. If the council wants to go by consensus or agreement, that would be acceptable too. That, however, could potentially blow up at any time.
Yeah, exactly. And these supernumeraries serve for 4 years. Is that what it is?
I believe it's a 3-year term on that, but I'd have to check to be sure.
So, with that, everybody would not get an appointment, per term necessarily. So,
I would suggest that it be set by law. None
prior
of
to
us,
doing this.
right? None of us are gonna always be here. Gentleman's agreement. The next council have no idea what the gentleman's agreement was.
That's true.
So we
Joel?
need to, yeah.
Is this, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Was the Board of Adjustment created by an act of the legislature or an act of the city council?
Boards of Adjustment statewide are created by the state code. That is correct. And then it's up to the municipality. The municipality theoretically doesn't have to have one, but if you do, you have to comply with the requirements in the state code.
So these issues, these issues we're talking about, are they addressable by the city council or do they have to go back to the legislature?
I think in this case, if the council is trying to determine how to allocate its appointments, as long as you've complied with the state law saying how many there are, and I think the council can allocate that how they like. I don't know if there's an absolute answer to that, though.
I'm not much less confused than I was.
Well,
Question.
the question is just how do we appoint supernumeraries when there are only 2?
But all the state statute says is that we have to have 7 members. It doesn't tell us how those 7 members are named.
It has to be 7 members appointed by the council. The council can determine how to appoint them,
Right,
though.
but it doesn't tell the council how to appoint those 7 members.
No.
And are we required to have supernumeraries?
Yes.
We're required to have 2 supernumeraries.
Correct. By the state code, yes. And that's also in the Board of Adjustment Act that was passed by the council in January.
Okay, thank you.
So the question we go back to is Ben's resolution is to appoint somebody as a supernumerary. So we will need one more supernumerary if this passes, or do we put this on hold until we decide how we are going to make these appointments?
Vice President,
Yes, sir.
So these supernumerary positions have been open for, I don't know, since we passed the Board of Adjustment ordinance.
Probably, yeah.
You know, and it fumbled around, and next thing you know, we have a Board of Adjustment meeting and there are 5 agenda items and we don't have a quorum. So, you know, us fumbling around with it and trying to figure out, I mean, the idea is just put somebody up and vote on them. And that's what I'd like to do, is get a vote so that we don't have to, I mean, this person does not get a vote unless there's not enough members there. And it's a unique position where they're not going to be at every meeting. They're not going to be at any meetings unless there's not a quorum or somebody's missing. So you can't just have somebody who's not sort of in the realm of these sort of approvals. And you got to have somebody who's up to speed, who can hop in at a moment's notice and be able to understand and consider all the things before the board and make a good, sound decision on behalf of the board. And I think this person's qualified to do that. They've volunteered to do it, even just on a temporary basis until we fill the position with someone else. So this is, you know, this person is totally on board with saying, look, if you need me, I'll do it until you find somebody else. So I think we should move forward with this appointment until we work out our other business. If we want to structure some way of, you know, deciding on who gets an appointment when, we can figure that stuff out at a later date. But it doesn't hold up the business of the Board of Adjustment any further.
One suggestion was made to just hash this out in a committee meeting so that we can figure it out. I don't have a problem moving forward today with this appointment, and he may wind up being somebody who was appointed from here on out. Does he have a problem if in fact we do this and then he has to come off?
No, that
He's okay with that.
When asked, that
Okay,
was
all
the
right.
explicit instruction. Hey, I'll do it until
Okay.
you find somebody
All right.
else. I mean,
I think that putting the cart before the horse can be dangerous here. And cart's going to be out in front of the horse when we do this. There's not going to be any structure as to how the appointment's made, what happens after the appointment's made, how they're made in the future. We're just flying by the seat of our pants here. It needs to go to committee and have a solid structure to it. It's not the person that's being appointed, it's the process. And if there's not a proper process, then that leaves us open for potential problems in the future. And you're asking us to put a process in place right now.
We can do both at the same time. We can go ahead and appoint Mr. Reynolds a person and have the committee meeting. And if we come up with some different arrangement, this person has agreed to step aside.
Just in an interim basis at this point.
that's what,
Yeah.
that is absolutely, look, the risk is further delaying the business of the Board of Adjustment. All right, that's what I would like to avoid. Is we've got 5 applicants, I think, and it may have grown since the last meeting, whose business has been delayed by 30 days. Now, imagine if you're a developer or you're a homeowner or something, that you've got this issue that you want to be resolved, and you've expended resources to get, you know, surveys and plans and all the things that are required, you know, to present at the Board of Adjustment. You got all that stuff out there on the line, and you can't even have a meeting. I mean, it is just a solution to the problem that's before us. If we want to try to address some additional structure to this, I suggest, you know, we do have a committee meeting, but let's not put at risk the business of the people.
Question.
Hang on,
Yep.
Corey.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Mr. Leonard, I had a question. If we was to vote, and I agree we need to move this process forward, but I think it's important to make sure we have law in place, because you don't want to, next time, you know, somebody else might want to do the same thing. And then the council might feel different. So if we were to do this, put him in the interim base, how would that work? Could we take him off later?
No. The enabling act states that appointments serve for a number of years and not at the discretion of the council. And that's one of my biggest issues, because he doesn't have to leave, even though he's agreed to it. He doesn't have to, and that's setting a dangerous precedent.
Michael.
in general, once you've appointed somebody, they would have to be removed by whatever process is provided for by removal if they're not willing to resign.
So
So-
is there a process for us to remove him?
On the Board of Adjustment, I don't believe so, no, but I would have to look. I think it might be acceptable for the council if you want to amend the appointment today to say this on an interim basis until time X or however you want to do that.
Is
So
that
now have
something
the
legal?
resolution explicitly say that this is an interim appointment while the council is making a permanent arrangement.
Is that legal for us to do that? I mean, is that? You need to check on that before we do that.
Question.
Hadn't Mr. Reynolds said that, Mr. Atchison said, I will resign or do this temporary? So what is the problem?
don't trust
We gotta jump through all these hoops. Do you think Mr. Atchison's just gonna sit there and not go to meetings and bottle things up?
So Ben, he has said he would resign if in fact asked, right?
He has explicitly said that he is only willing to do this position temporarily, only willing to do it temporarily until we find someone else to do it. So
You can get a letter of resignation, undated, put it in the box in your hand, and then just hand it to him. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Question.
Well,
Margaret, how many times has the BOA not met in the last year because of lack of a quorum? One time in the last year. How many times in the last 4 years have they met for lack of a quorum? So 2 times in 4 years for lack of a quorum. So that's really not our problem. It's only been certain specific incidences where we've had something just totally unique happen, correct? Or we had, a quorum is what, 5 now with the BOA? So we've only had 2 times in 5 years now that we've had lack of a quorum.
This past one, definitively, I'd have to research.
Right. Okay. So twice right now in 5 years.
Shayla, did you want to? Okay.
We just need to reinforce to all of our members that active participation is required. I don't care who it is. We need active participation from all of them. We monthly are having to email and call to make sure that we have a quorum. And that's a lot of time and energy on staff to make that happen, to avoid a cancellation of a meeting.
Correct. I don't have a problem moving forward today with this appointment. Mr. Atchison has agreed. We can do as the mayor suggested, get a letter of resignation in our hands, undated, and we can fill that in when and if we need to. Just in case there are other meetings where there is not a quorum, at least business can be handled at that point. Then we take this to committee and work it out as to how we're going to make these appointments in the future.
Voted up or down at 10:30.
We'll find out. Okay, at 10:30. This afternoon, after our council meeting, we have a committee meeting. It's not a committee meeting, but it's a lunch and learn with the Arts Council, Alabama Arts Council. So,
It's the Contemporary
oh,
Arts Center.
sorry, Contemporary Arts Center. So following the meeting, we'll be up here. So come on up so we can get started as soon as possible. Anybody else? Any other announcements? Anybody? All right, we're,
President, hold on.
yes, sir.
I did had, with the,
Hey, y'all, hang on. Everybody, wait.
With the tennis center, are we just at the, do the clinics take place all over at different parts?
Shonda?
The tennis lessons? All the tennis lessons, do they take place at all the parts? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we'll see y'all down at the meeting, regular meeting, 10:30.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, I agree. I think the 2 supernumeraries should be appointed by the president and vice president.
That's fine with me.
I mean, I just
I don't
think
want
that
to serve
makes-
on the Board of Adjustment.
No, but it would be